See, yesterday I laid out the proposed fiscal year budget for 21. The proposed budget for all funds is 5.1 billion. It's an increase of 62.2 million, or 1.2%. And then it closes a $169 million gap caused in large part by COVID-19. These are, as we all recognize, unprecedented times, and we have to make some difficult decisions. And the proposed budget includes some cuts, preserves public safety, and maintains city services. And even though all 5 of the City of Houston Police Cadet class are being placed on hold, there are additional dollars in there for overtime for HPD. As a result of COVID-19, the city will experience a cumulative estimated loss in sales tax revenue of about $107 million. So that is unprecedented. And then this, combined with decreases in other revenue sources, will have a significant impact on the city's budget. So just on sales tax alone, the reduction is right at 107, could be more. And then when you combine the loss in, let's say, fees from the municipal courts, parking fees, because we suspended with parking citations, it will be more than that. And to make up for the $169 million budget, we are drawing down from the fund balance $98 million. But in that amount is the $15 million from the Budget Economic Stabilization Fund. So the Budget Economic Stabilization Fund is now down to 0. And as we all know, the hurricane season is quickly approaching. And after Hurricane Harvey, we utilized the $20 million from the Budget Economic Stabilization Fund for Harvey. And so that's not going to be available at this point. So so the Budget Equalization Fund is now down to 0. We've drawn down from the fund balance, and we try to stay above 7.5, but in this case we've had to dip below to 7.15, which is $7.4 million below that 7.5 threshold. And to balance the budget, a number of measures are included in this budget. In addition to the drawdown from the fund balance, furloughing about 3,000 municipal workers, that's with the exception of police, fire, and our solid waste employees, which deferring the cadet classes, additional revenue that's been factored in, and that includes the $4.5 million for the bins, and then the reduction in contingencies. Okay, the furloughs will take effect after July 1, the start of the new fiscal year. Nothing between now and July 1. The reason why it is no more than 10 days, because that's the number of days finance indicate that it won't impact their pensions. So that's why it's up to 10 days and not more than 10 days. So there won't be any impact on their pensions up to the 10 days. And what it is essentially means is that over the course of the year, they will not be paid for 10 days. They can take those days throughout the entire year. So let's say in the month of July, there's one day that they don't come to work or don't get paid, in August, could be one day. In September, could be one day. Up to 10 days, okay? It will not affect, this way it's laid out, will not affect police, fire, or solid waste workers. It's the best way short of laying people off, okay? And where you lose out on 1 day pay, in a month, so to speak, assuming let's say 12 months in a year. So for 1 day out of 10 months, you're not going to get paid 1 day. But the point that I simply want to make is that the budget as presented to you does balance. To the extent you decide not to do this or to generate the revenue, we are furloughing our employees at the max. To the extent you decide not to vote on one of these revenue sources, then you're looking at laying off the employees. I want everyone to understand that. These are difficult choices. and we are still looking through the federal guidelines to see to what degree we can pull dollars from the Federal CARES Act dollars that are already here. And I am hopeful that we can continue to do that. But I want to be very, very clear with all of you as we move forward. This is the only city, the only major city in the United States, number one, that's operating under the revenue cap. That's number one. And from all indications, you will be asked in September to lower the tax rate. Okay? You're going to be asked to lower the tax rate. No other city is going to be doing that in a time of this situation, in order to reduce the taxes that have been generated. And you all know, you've heard rise in property tax rates, tax values, because of the revenue cap, be $187 million that we will not be taken from property owners. And so we're going to lower the tax rate. Okay, that's in September. So please bear in mind, you're going to be lowering the tax rate, okay, in September. The second thing is that we are the only city that do not have, for example, garbage fees and environmental fees. The only city in the entire country, okay? The only one, with rising demands for illegal dumping and trash collections. So you cannot continue to demand more in services and keep clipping the wings. You will run the city in the wrong direction. Okay, then the other issue, of course, city council meetings starting next week. We'll be we'll meet virtually for at least 2 weeks, starting next week. And we're working through that process, and we'll be providing, everyone with information, and you and your staff, so that we are all up to speed as much as possible on the virtual meeting. So that will start next week. And then for our high school seniors, we are partnering with our area school districts for a virtual city celebration of our graduates. And so Susan Christian with special events and Houston First and others are working with all of the school superintendents on that virtual celebration. That's where the graduates will return to their respective campuses, not with their family members and others, but that's a city celebration, and then the other school districts are deciding what they want to do separate and apart. And then lastly, our Houston airports continue to show why they are some of the best in the world. In the 2020 Skytrak World Airports Award, which ranks the customer experience in several categories, Houston remains the only city in the Western Hemisphere to have 2 4-star Skytrak rated airports. And so simply, even in these times, want to acknowledge our Houston airport systems. And then lastly, let me congratulate the Houston Police Department Assistant Chief Pedro Lopez Jr. Yesterday, Houston Independent School District announced he will be the new chief of the HISD Police Department. And so we want to give a big shout out to Assistant Chief Pedro Lopez Jr. For his assignment. And then it is good to have Councilmember Knox back.
Thank you, Mayor.
I want you to know we continue to hold you and your family in our prayers. So, oh, absolutely, Councilmember Knox.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you to you and all of my colleagues and the entire city for all that they did during this difficult time for us. I'm back now, ready to do battle for truth, justice, and the American way, and let's get on with it.
Thank you. Well, welcome back. And then I am wearing this orange lapel this morning in honor of one of our HPW employees, Houston Public employees, who died on yesterday on duty. I certainly want to John Davila. He was a plant operator supervisor at the 69th Street Wastewater Treatment Plant. John worked for the city of Houston for 31 years, spending his entire career in wastewater, and he worked his way up the ranks as well. was well known as being a very dedicated supervisor who took a great deal of pride in his job. And John was much more than a dedicated employee. He was kind, unassuming, he loved fishing. His greatest joy came from helping others, and he will be missed tremendously. And we want to wrap our arms around his wife, Gloria Davila, who's also a City of Houston employee. So she's been a City of Houston employee for 27 years, and they just recently celebrated their 22nd anniversary. So we will miss John Davila, the plant operator supervisor of 69th Street's wastewater treatment plant, and we extend our prayers to all of the workers and in that area, and we want to especially can lift up his wife, Gloria Davila, and his entire family.